We're previewing Week 6 in the NFL here at SBRForum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak, and we're talking with Stephen O from EventDataServices.com, who gave us another winner last week. He's now 3-2-1 against the spread in his videos with us. And like I said, I have a feeling he's going to, like he did last year, about to embark on a big winning streak in the heart of the NFL season. Stephen, thanks for being back with us this week.
Thank you for having me. And I think the totals, which weren't the official picks, have all come through.
All right, well, it's clear you know what you're talking about overall, and your opinions on these lines have a lot of value. Tell us a little bit about EventDataServices.com and how you're doing this year before we get into Arizona, San Francisco.
We're doing well. Last week was a great week on spreads and all of our four highest probability spreads. So we do simulate each game one play at a time, and that's how we determine on what side of the line we are. And all the highest probability spreads where teams had 60% chance of covering, all ended up covering. Now our totals were kind of had a down week because some of those aberrant games, Detroit scoring 9 and even Green Bay scoring 22, Tom Brady not having a touchdown, and those kind of things hurt us. But overall, the season's been great, and our high quality picks are hitting right around our expected 57%, and we average around 10 to 12 of those every week, in addition to the 2 or 3 that I like to give out personally.
Okay, sounds great. EventDataServices.com is Stephen O's site, and the game that you chose this week to discuss is Arizona, San Francisco. San Francisco is right now a 10.5-point home favorite. Total is 41, and the Niners, of course, rolled Houston last week. The Cards rolled Carolina, and the Cards, they're an interesting team. Their defense is really, really impressive this year. They're getting it done with defense. On offense, led by Carson Palmer, a little bit iffy. And San Francisco, the big debate is is Colin Kaepernick a fraud or not? Some people are saying every time he has a bad game, like, see, I told you he was a fraud. Every time he has a better game, people are starting to, the people who think he's for real come back and they voice their strong opinions. I guess, I'm looking at this. I'm thinking, Arizona is probably going to have a tough time scoring here, as always. The Niners are having some key injuries on defense, though. If they can hold San Francisco down, though, 10.5 points, a lot of points to be getting in the NFL. What do you like here, Stephen?
Yeah, I like Arizona, and I think that line opened in like 12.5 in a lot of books, and I actually had it at 11, so now it's 10.5, so I'm losing a half point there. But yeah, it's the same logic. In our simulations, the line projection of San Francisco 10.5, and the over/under is on 41. It has Arizona scoring around 15, and in our simulations, they're scoring right around 15. So the key here, as you point out, is San Francisco scoring 25 or less. And while they had 30-point plus games last 2 weeks, St. Louis was one of them. They're not exactly a good team right now. And Houston helped them out. Matt Schaub helped them out with a nice pick 6 to start the game. And the key to San Francisco is dominating on the running game. Arizona is currently in a virtual tie for second in yards per carry allowed. They're top 10 in scoring allowed. And, 85% of the quarters, they've pretty much shut down the opposition. There's 3 quarters that they've allowed 41 of their 108 total points. So they're 10, 15 percentage points away from being a really elite defense that is the kind that allows around 15, 16 points a game. I think that, as you point out, Kaepernick, even in their big wins, has had pretty poor games. Since week 1, he's completes under 55%. He's averaging around 140 passing yards a game. And as a fantasy owner of Colin Kaepernick, I know he hasn't been very good. So I like Arizona's chance to cover. The big problem here is Carson Palmer. It seems to me that he's a turnover machine, and but this could just be anecdotal, but I feel like most of his turnovers seem to come on the other opponent's side of the field, which kills Arizona's chance of scoring, which is why we only have him at around 15. Same time, at least it hopefully doesn't result in an easy score for San Francisco. But Carson Palmer is the reason why we don't have Arizona as a stronger pick. Our line is around San Francisco by 9. So we like the Cardinals defense to hold a team that averages around 25 or 26 to around 24, which is a good defensive effort for a road team.
All right, so what about the great debate about whether Kaepernick is a fraud or not? Based on the numbers that you have for him, do you think that, so you see him as a guy who probably is likely to be held down by a quality defense like Arizona?
Yeah, in this case, and the funny thing is, as a Raven fan, I love Anquan Bolden for how good he was in the playoffs, and it was a big deal. And I wish he was still in Baltimore and all that, but Anquan just doesn't have the speed. So I think Kaepernick is not a fraud. I think that when he's fully healthy at wide receiver, he'll be just fine. The fact is, the lack of speed. The guys they have at wide receiver right now are either too slow in Bolden to get the separation, and Kaepernick is not. Flacco last year in the playoffs got that confidence that he's covered. There's a DB right on him, but you can still throw it to him and he'll bring it down. Kaepernick's got to understand that a covered Anquan Bolden is an open Anquan Bolden because he's such a beast, playing, basically rebounding for the ball. But when Kaepernick gets all his weapons back, he'll be just fine. He'll go back to being a consistent 225, 230 passing yards and probably another 50, 60 rushing yards, and everyone will love him again. But while San Francisco is dealing with a lack of speed or a lack of talent, Jonathan Baldwin isn't exactly going to catch things that come to him. And Kyle Williams, he's best known for fumbling those 2 times in the NFC Championship game a few years ago. That's not an impressive receiving core.
All right, great analysis by Stephen O from EventDataServices.com. Once again, liking Arizona plus 10.5 to cover against San Francisco. Thanks, Stephen.